Every morning begins with a glow, the screen lighting our faces before the sun even rises. We scroll through endless updates, headlines that whisper fear, faces that seem happier, lives that seem fuller. Yet deep down, a strange emptiness hums beneath the noise. It is not that the world has grown darker, it is that our hearts have grown louder, constantly buzzing, desperate for clarity. We check maps to know where we are going, but we've forgotten how to know who we are becoming. Perhaps anxiety isn't proof that God has abandoned us, but that we have lost our signal, the divine frequency that once guided every step. The question is not whether God still speaks, but whether we are still listening. We live surrounded by sound, yet starved of meaning. Every ping, every vibration, every flash of blue light promises connection but delivers exhaustion. We call it staying informed, yet it feels more like being consumed. The constant pressure to know, to respond, to appear alive online has dulled our ability to actually live. Silence now feels uncomfortable, like a void we must fill. We scroll not because we seek truth, but because we fear what will rise inside if we stop. And so we keep running, faster, noisier, emptier, until one day we realize that our hearts, though beating, have gone numb. The tragedy of our time is not that we have lost our faith, but that we have replaced it with distraction. Before the chaos, before the noise, there was order, a divine rhythm pulsing through creation. God did not design the human heart to wander endlessly through confusion. He wrote within it a compass that always points home. That longing for peace, that ache that no achievement or pleasure can satisfy, is not a flaw in our wiring, but a whisper from eternity. Every anxiety we feel is a symptom of disconnection, a reminder that the soul cannot be synced with a world that runs on speed and comparison. True peace begins when we stop chasing updates and start listening to the still, small voice that speaks from within, the one that says, "You were made for more than noise. You were made for me." Peace is not found when everything finally goes right. It is found when we learn to let go of the need for everything to go right. The saints knew this secret well, that silence is not the absence of sound, but the presence of God. In a world obsessed with control, they chose surrender. In a culture addicted to noise, they embraced stillness. Their peace was not passive. It was power under grace. They saw storms as classrooms and suffering as sacred soil where trust could grow roots. To follow their path is to remember that God's blueprint for peace was never hidden. It was carved into the rhythm of prayer, the gratitude of small things, and the humility of letting go. When we stop trying to be our own saviors, we rediscover the one who already saved us. It begins not with grand gestures, but with quiet choices. Turning off your phone an hour before bed can become an act of faith, a way of saying, "Lord, I trust the world can wait." Sharing a meal without a screen becomes communion. Breathing deeply beneath an open sky becomes prayer. In reclaiming these sacred pauses, we train our hearts to hear again. The spiritual life is not about escape, it's about attention, noticing the fingerprints of God in ordinary places. When you slow down enough to see beauty in the mundane, the algorithm loses its hold on you. The gospel becomes your notification. The Eucharist becomes your feed, and slowly the digital storm fades into something sacred, a silence alive with presence. Maybe the world will never quiet down. The screens will keep glowing, the headlines will keep shouting, and the pace will keep quickening. But even in the storm, peace remains possible. Not because the waves cease, but because Christ sleeps in the boat. To live with divine resilience is to move through chaos without letting it move through you. It is to trust that every detour, every delay, every heartbreak can still be holy ground if walked with God. The anxious heart can become a chapel, the restless mind a place of prayer. And when we learn to let grace interrupt our fears, we discover that peace is not a destination on the map. It is the presence that walks beside us, recalculating our route with mercy at every wrong turn. If your soul feels lost in the noise, take heart. You are not broken, you are being called. Every ache for peace, every sleepless night, every quiet tear is a signal. Heaven is gentle vibration, reminding you that your GPS was never off. You just muted the voice. God has been speaking all along, softly guiding, patiently waiting for you to pause long enough to hear him again. So stop, just for a moment. Let the silence breathe. Let your heart say the simplest prayer, Lord, lead me. And in that whisper, the map begins to redraw itself, because no matter how far you've wandered, grace has already charted the way back home.